Hello students, I am Saranya Babu, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AJIET Institute of Engineering and Technology, Mangaluru. So today we will be starting with the new module, that is Module 4 in C Programming for Problem Solving. So this Module 4 is based on the functions and recursions. Okay, so far we have learned about all the basics of C, starting from structure of C program, what is variables, how do you have to declare variable, how do you have to initialize variables, and then moving on to the data types, everything we have seen, the simple programs, and then we moved on to the looping statements, then the conditional statements, if else and all, then coming to unconditional statements, right? And after that we had moved on to the arrays, right? Arrays, the one-dimensional arrays as well as two-dimensional arrays we had seen, and we had discussed about strings, how to make use of strings and string manipulation functions, and then we moved on to the sorting techniques. We had almost finished with all those concepts. So now we have to move on to the next part, that is called as functions and recursions. Okay, so the next topic which we want to discuss is functions and recursions. So what is this functions and what do you mean by recursions? So our first topic that we will be focusing is on the functions. Okay, we are not going to start with recursions now, we will be starting with functions. If you know the concept of functions, then we can discuss about recursions. So first we will be starting with the topic functions. So what do you mean by the term function? We tell like this: functionality of a system. What do you mean by the functionality of a system? A task which is being done by that system, right? So if I tell the functionality of this program, what do you mean functionality of this program? What that program does, what function it does. So same way here also, function means it is a group or block of statements. I'm not telling it is an entire program. A function is a group or block of statements that perform a particular task. So clear, it is not an entire program, it is a group or block of statements. Okay, block of statement means the one which comes between the starting floor bracket and the ending floor bracket, and which perform a particular task. That is called as function. We'll see the function can be classified into two categories. Okay, the general functions can be classified into two categories. What are those two categories? One is built-in function, or it is also called as library defined functions. Is it clear? Built-in function or library defined functions. Now what is this built-in function or library defined function? And the next one is user defined function. Okay, first one is built-in function, or it is also called as library defined function, and the second one is called as user defined function. So we will see what you mean by this built-in function or the user defined function. You all know by this time what is library functions, or which is called as built-in function. I have used this term so many times, right? Built-in function, library function and all. In the very first class itself I had explained you what do you mean by built-in or library functions and all. So coming to this, C library that comes with C compiler has a collection of various functions which perform standard and predefined tasks. I hope you remember when I said you in the first initial class, that is a printf and scanf function. Okay, printf function and scanf function. What does this printf function do? It prints the statements, or it prints the whatever value that you want to get it printed. So that was the task of printf function. What was the task of scanf function? Scanf function is the one which reads the value given by the user through the keyboard. It reads the value and it stores in the address of a location, right? So that was a function of scanf. But in our program we just directly use it, right? Printf and scanf. We don't know how that printf and scanf was implemented. Clear? We are not bothered. Why? Because it is a standard function. It's how it is defined, everything is there in which header file? stdio.h. That's why we are including that stdio.h header file. because it includes all the standard input output functions. Which is the input output function? Printf and scanf, which we are using. So same way, if you want to make use of string related function, I had explained in the recent videos and all. What do you mean by that, string functions and all? So those string functions, for example, string reverse, string length, string compare, string concatenation, all those if you want to use, you have to make use of string.h header file. Okay. So now the C language has provides many built-in functions. You can see this built-in functions: the power, square root, then string manipulation function, which we have already seen, string length, string copy, then some memory management function as well, malloc, calloc and all. Okay, so all these are built-in functions. Is it clear? All these are built-in functions because they are meant for a certain functionality. So all these are meant for certain functionality. The power function will calculate the power, square root function will calculate the square root of the parameters which is given. String manipulation function, string length, will find the length of the string. String copy will copy from one string to another string. Then memory management functions such as malloc, calloc and all. Clear? So such type of functions are called as library defined functions. Is it clear? Such functions are called as library defined functions, or it is also called as built-in functions. Fine. The second category is the one which we are going to deal it in this particular module, that is called as user defined function. We are going to discuss more on this user defined functions. Is it clear? So the two categories of functions, the two just branches of two functions are, one is library functions or built-in function and another one is user defined functions. So what is this user defined function? As the title says, clear, as the title says, user is going to define the function. So C allows programmers to create their own functions called as user defined functions. Understood? So the C will allow their programmers to create their own functions. They can create their own functions. Such functions will be called as user defined functions. Fine. These user-defined functions are required because built-in functions provided by C are not sufficient for performing customized function. Coming to customized function, okay, take an example. You are going to write a quite long program, okay? Let it be a little big program. In that program, maybe some 4 to 5 times you want to calculate the average of some numbers. Okay, you have to calculate some average of numbers. So how do you calculate the average of numbers? You will find the sum divided by total number of elements, that is called as average. Okay, so 5 to 6 times if you want to use it if you want to calculate average in the same program. Understand, students? In the same single program, 5 to 6 times, so in so many places you want to calculate the average of different numbers. So what normally you will do? Every time you will declare one variable for that particular thing. You will calculate the sum, you will store the result, then that divided by the total number of elements, and that result will be stored in average. Clear, right? This is what you have to do. But instead of repeatedly writing that same set of statements in 5 to 6 times in the same program, it is better, it is understood that you have to use that the calculation of average, or you want to calculate the average of a certain number several times in the program, right? So in that case, what you can do, you can make a function called as average. Clear? You can write a function for the term average, and you can just use that function name wherever you want to calculate average. Okay, wherever you want to calculate average, you will just use that word avg. Maybe if that is a function name that you have given, then you will just use avg with that open bracket and closing bracket, open parenthesis then close parenthesis. That is the notation of function. So if you do, it will automatically perform the function of average. So what you have to do, you have to create a function, you have to define a function which calculates the average of n numbers, so that you can use that same function name everywhere in that program. Is that clear, students? That is how that is the general meaning of this function, or what we are doing it is called as function. Okay, so that is why we have given performing customized function, because built-in function, they are provided by C compilers. They are meant for certain functions. You cannot change it for your way. To perform the customized function, you cannot use it. Is it clear? You cannot use it for the customized function. So that is what we want to explain here. Advantage of function is it reduces complexity of writing single large program by having a separate function for each subtask. Understood? Rather than writing that same thing every time, you can just make a function initially, then you can use it wherever you want it in your program. Such smaller subprograms or functions are easier to test, debug and maintain, right? Otherwise, what you have to do, wherever you have explained those steps, for example, average means, everywhere you have to go and check whether all the steps are correct. But what if you have a function? You will write it in 3 to 4 lines in one function, right? So that you can check it there. It is easy to test, debug and also to maintain. Set of instructions specifying the task performed by the function is written just once, but can be used any number of times. You can use any number of times. So the set of instructions specifying the task performed by the function. Okay, you will have some sort of instructions or statement specifying the task performed by the function is written just once, but can be used any number of times. That's what I said. Once you will be writing for example, the calculation of average. Once you will write sum divided by n, and it will be stored in that average function. So even though it is written only once, you can use it n number of times anywhere in your program, because it is a function. Understood? So this is what you mean by this is the advantages of functions. And students, in your notes, in your C programming notes in module 4, these topics you can find it in the beginning itself, from page number 1 to 6 you can find it. Now coming to elements of user defined functions. Okay, elements of user defined function or structure of a function. How do you use a function in the program? How to create a function in the program? The 3 elements, this is very important, elements of user defined function or structure of a function. There are 3 elements of user defined function. First one is function declaration, function definition, function call. Is it clear? The 3 elements of user defined functions are function declaration, function definition and function call. Okay, so these are the 3 elements of user defined function. Is it clear? These are the 3 elements of user defined functions. So what is this function declaration? What is this function definition? And what is this function call? We are going to discuss it now. Okay, so always remember function declaration, definition and call. Now what is this declaration part? First one is function declaration, or it is also called as function prototype. What do you mean by the term declaration? When you have to declare a variable in your program, how do you do? I have said, right, initially in the program, what is the first step that you have to do? Variable declaration. So same way here also you have to declare the function. It is called as function declaration. Clear? It is called as function declaration. Function declaration is also called as function prototype. It provides the following information to the compiler. What are the information? Name of the function, return type. Return type means we'll write it in terms of data type only. Okay, return type. Then the data type of parameters of the function. Okay, the data type of parameters of the function. I'll give you with example. So these are the 3 things that comes under function declaration: name of the function, return type and data type of parameters. We'll see one example. This is the syntax. Okay, first what comes? Normally for variable declaration, what did I tell? Data type and variable name, correct? Here also it is data type only, but we call it as return type. Okay, not data type, we will call it as return type. What that function is returning. If that function returns any value, which data type it is, that is what you mean by return type. Clear? What value, what data type of value this function is going to return. So that particular data type is called as the return type of the function. So return type, function name, and in the bracket you have to give the parameter list with data type. Okay, so now we'll see example. Int add int a comma int b. So what is int? Nothing else, it is a return type. What is add? Same way how we give variable name, here I have to give function name. So add is the function name, and then comes the parenthesis. Please students, dear students, please remember to put this opening bracket as well as the closing bracket. If there is no parameters also, these are called as parameters. Okay, int a, int b, these are called as parameters. If you write something inside this parenthesis, or if you write something inside this bracket, but please don't please remember to put this bracket. Even though you don't have parameters, you are supposed to put this brackets, because this is the function notation. Clear? So int add int a comma int b. So int is the return type I said. That means this particular function, what is the function name? Add. So this particular function is going to return some value of integer data type. That is why it is called as return type. Then what is int a comma int b? Those are the parameter list. So is it clear? What is the syntax of function declaration? Return type. See here, return type, function name. See the function name, parameter list with data type. This is a parameter list with data type. Okay. Fine. Okay. So now coming to function definition. Clear? So function declaration is done. That was one part, right? That is a function declaration. After function declaration, what comes? Function definition. Okay, we done with function declaration. We had seen it. Now coming to function definition. What do you mean by function definition? See, when you declare a variable, you declare that data type, variable name, and if you want to put any value, you will put int value. Here, function declaration means what? Same thing, you have to specify the return type of that function, name of the function, inside the bracket, the parameter if you have, you can give the parameter list. After that, for what you are using that function. And one more thing, students, this function declaration, right? The previous one which I explained. Function declaration always ends with semicolon. As the variable declaration ends, see, int a, semicolon, right? Int b, semicolon, or int a comma b comma c, semicolon. So all those declaration statements ends with semicolon. Please don't forget that. Okay, even function declaration also ends with semicolon. So when we declared the function, we started with the return type, function name, and the parenthesis is there. If you have parameters, you put it inside the parenthesis. These are the parameter list. End it with semicolon. This is the declaration. Now, for what this particular function you have declared, what is the use of this function? What is the use of the function? That is how you are going to define. It is called as a function definition. How you are going to define the function? It is called as function definition. So, function definition provides the actual body of the function. It provides the actual body of the function. Is it clear? So, function definition provides the actual body of the function. So it contains executable code. Also it is called as executable statements. So it contains executable code. Also it is called as executable statements. So syntax of this function definition is, first is return type, function name, parameter list with data type. See here, there is no semicolon. Understood? Syntax of function definition is same way how we have declared your function, right? Same thing, return type, function name, parameter list with data type. So, and then comes the curly bracket because you are defining, right? You are defining this function. So this is the return type, function name, parameter list, but no semicolon because you are defining, you are explaining for what purpose you are going to do this function. So there will be some variable declaration and then the statements. Okay, this is the syntax I am explaining. Please listen, students. This is the syntax of function definition. And what is the return value? If there is any return value, mention the return value. Close the flower bracket. So this entire thing is called as what? Function definition. Is it clear? This entire thing is called as function definition. Is it clear, everyone? So function definition means, declaration means like how you declare the variable, you have just informed that you are going to make use of this particular function. Now what is this function? For what you are using that function? That comes under function definition. So how will you do the function definition? Starting with the return type, function name, specify the parameter list with its data type, then the variable declaration, statements, return value and all such things. Okay. So this entire thing is called as function definition. So what is this function definition? See here, this is one example of function definition. I had declared the previous one, it was add, right? So let it be sum, int a comma int b. So what is int? Return type, sum, function name. This is parameter list, opening bracket. What is int c? I've said, right, in the previous one, local variable declaration, if anything is there, int c. Then what is this? Executable statement. What is the c equal to a plus b? Means you are calculating the sum of these two numbers. Understood? This particular function sum is used to calculate the sum of two numbers. So inside this function, again I have to declare one more variable. Why? To store the sum, to store the result. So c equal to a plus b, this value, a and b value, c equal to a plus b, and then return this value c. Is it clear? This is what you mean by this function definition. This is one simple example. Okay, if it is to find the sum of two numbers using function min, this is how you have to write. So this int is a return type, sum is a function name, this is a parameter list, this we have already seen. Then this is the local declaration, executable statement, and this is the return statement. Is it clear, student? This is how you define the function. This is called as function definition. Fine. This is called as function definition. So now the third category or the third element in the user defined function is called as function call. You have to call the function. See, I said in that first example when I said average, to calculate the average of number, in that big program around 5 to 6 times you have to calculate the average of some numbers. So what you will do, like this, you will create one function like how I did for sum, same way, or just how I did for add function, same way I'll create a function called as average, where inside the function definition I will give the steps how to calculate the average of any given numbers. Is it clear, students? Inside the function definition I will explain how to find the average of some numbers, and that particular function, wherever you want to calculate the average of numbers in anywhere of your program, wherever you want to calculate the average of numbers, what you will do, you will just call this function. Understood? This function will be initially created and it will be kept. So whenever you want it in your program, you have to just call this function. Understood, everyone? Initially we will be declaring. After that you will be defining the function. Then wherever you want to call, you have to just call this function. Is it clear in your program? So that calling the function is called as function call. Okay, calling the function is called as function call. A function can be called by simply using the function name followed by a list of actual parameters or arguments, if any, enclosed in the parentheses. If parameters are there, you have to pass the value to those parameters. I will teach you all those, how to pass the value to those parameters and all. Okay, if any enclosed in parentheses. Syntax is, you have function name and inside the bracket you have parameters. Example is add, that is the function name. In the bracket you have to give a comma Okay, A comma B. So what is A and B? These are the parameters. Clear? So what is the function name? Add. You don't have to give the return type there. You have to just give the function name, pass the values to it, so that it will perform that particular function. Because this add function was generally created, values to it you have to pass wherever in your program. Is it clear? So this is called as function call. So is it clear? First is the function declaration. You have to declare it, you have to define the function, and then you have to call the function. Okay, function declaration, function definition, function call. These are the three elements of a user defined function. Okay, user is defining, that's why we are including all these things. So these are the three parts of user defined function. So you will see, write a function to find sum of two numbers. Okay, write a C program using function to find sum of two numbers. As usual, I'll start with stdio.h. Then after the header file immediately comes the function declaration. Is it clear? This is why I have given with an arrow. This is just comments. Okay, you don't have to write it in the program or something. This I just want you to make you understand. I have written this. So what is this? I need to write a function to find sum of two numbers, right? So what I'll do? The return type I'll give int. What is the function name? I'll give add. Then int a comma int b. So these are the two parameters that I am passing because I want to find the sum of two numbers, right? So I'll just give parameters is int a comma int b and end it with semicolon. So this line is called as function declaration. Clear? Whatever function you want to declare, you have to declare it called as function declaration. Then comes the main function as usual in your program, main function. In the main function, what I need, I will give int a comma b comma c. Okay, that is to find the sum of two numbers, right? Two numbers will be stored in a and b. Result that it be in C. Printf enter the values of a and b. I will read the values of a and b, store it in the address of a, store it in the address of b, because I want to calculate the sum of two numbers. Now, next is what? After getting the input, always in your program, what you have to do after getting the input, you have to find the sum. Which function is going to find the sum? This is the function which is going to give you the sum of two numbers. So what I'll do, I'll just call it here. You can define it before main function or you can define it after main function. Now you will have a question, I did not define this function. See, your C program always starts execution from the main, right? So when it comes and sees a function like this add, immediately control will be given to that function. Okay, function definition. So you can define it anywhere. Fine. So what is the C equal to add of a comma b? What is this function? See, now the user has given the value of a and b. The value, suppose if it is 2 and 3, 2 is stored in a, 3 is stored in b. And that will be given here. Understood? 2 comma 3. You can give different variables also here, doesn't matter. Understood? So this is called as function call. You are calling the function. Which function? Add a comma b, and since it returns an integer value, it is given C equal to add of a comma b. Now sum is stored in which variable? C. So sum is %d c. Close the main function. You are done with the main function. Now comes the definition, function definition. What is the function? Int add int a comma b. So what you need to do? This particular, because I did not do that a plus b. Did I do a plus b anywhere here? No. A plus b I have to show it here. So for that I need to store the result. So I'll put one more variable as called as sum. Okay. Then sum equal to a plus b. And where is the result stored now? It is stored in sum. Return sum. Close the bracket. Now I'll explain you. This is the function declaration. You are just declaring the function with its function name, data type, parameter list. After that, as usual, your main function will start. You have to find sum of two numbers. You know that after finding sum of two numbers, result should be stored in another variable. Printf enter the values of a and b. You'll ask the user to enter the value of a and b. User will enter the value of a comma b. It will be stored, and then you are calling the function add, which is going to help you to perform the addition. Okay, this one add in bracket. You don't see, whenever function call comes, you don't have to specify the data type. So add which variable is having the value now? A and B. Is it clear? Which variable is having the value now? A and B is having the value of to calculate the sum. So I have to pass that same variable name A comma B. So this add, so now if the control comes to this line, C equal to add A comma B. It is understood that you have to give the control to this function add. So what happens from here? Directly the control will be given to this function. So what is there in this function? Int add int A comma B. Now what is the value of A? Whatever value passed from here to here. Whatever values was there for B, that is passed to this B. So now you will calculate the sum equal to A plus B. Then you will give return sum. What do you mean by this return sum? So this particular function will return the sum here. So that sum will be copied to variable C. And then printf sum is %t C. So if I give, enter the values of A and B. If I give 2 and 3, it is like C equal to add 2 comma 3. Directly it will come to this function. This is the function. Okay. Int add 2 comma 3. So what will come? Int sum equal to 2 plus 3. Return 2 plus 3 is 5, right? Sum is having the value 5. So return 5. So return 5 means it will return here. So C is equal to 5. So 5 will be assigned to variable C and sum is printed as 5. Is it clear? So this is this is how you are going to do that. Fine. So this is function declaration. Function call always comes in the main function and function definition is outside it. Okay. Don't define the function inside the main function. It's outside or it is before the main function. Same thing in sum is 5. Now the function which calls another function is called as calling function. Tell me in this program which function is calling another function? Is main a function? I've already said main function, right? So this main function is calling a function called as add. Clear? Main function calls add function. So which is the calling function here? Calling function is the main function. Understood? Example main. So main function. This is the calling function. The function which is called by another function is called as called function. The function which is called by another function is called as called function. So which will be called function? So this will be the called function. Which is a called function? Add. Add is the called function. Understood? This is a calling function. This is a called function. So now we'll see the another very important concept called as formal and actual parameters. What do you mean by formal parameters? What do you mean by actual parameters? Okay. Formal parameters, the parameter written in function definition and function declaration is called formal parameters. What is the parameter? The one which you write inside the bracket of the function. Understood? That is called as parameters. In that parameters, there are two categories. One is formal and one is actual. Clear? So the parameter which is written in function definition and function declaration is called as formal parameter. The formal parameters will receive the data sent by the calling program. I'll explain you. Since these parameters formally represent the actual values and they are not the actual values, they are called as formal parameters. I'll show with one example. See this example. Hash include st. I just want to display the value of some integer. So I'll just give the function name as display. If it doesn't have any return type, you can put as void. Okay. Void means you write same way. So before that you have to write the function declaration. Void function name I have given it as display. Parameters I have given it as int a. Clear? So now this a is a formal parameter. The one which comes in function declaration. It is called as formal parameters. I have just given a dummy variable here. Okay. So it is called as formal parameters. Now inside the main function I have given int x equal to 10. Then instead of writing printf, what I'll just call this function because there is display function will print it. Okay. Instead of writing printf all the time, I'll just call it as display because display function is going to perform something. What I'll give? Display. Now tell me which value you want to display. 10 you want to display. Which variable is having the value 10? X is having the value 10. So what you will write? Display x. So when it comes to display x, this is called as a function call. Clear? Display of x is the function call. So when it comes to display function, it directly comes to this function definition, void display int a. That means the value of x will be given to this a. Understood? So here, and then inside that printf %t a. So which is the formal parameters? A is the formal parameters. Understood? The one which comes in function declaration and function definition is called as formal parameters. So what is actual parameters? Which variable was having the actual value? X, right? X was having the actual value. So the parameter that comes in the function call. Okay. So the parameter which is having the actual value from the program, the parameter which is having the actual value is called as the actual parameter. So here int a, while declaration int a doesn't have any value. When the function definition also we have just used it. Okay. So whenever the function is called with some value, that value will be given to this parameter. Understood? So this is called as formal parameters. Here a is the formal parameter. So what is actual parameter? The parameter written in function call is called as actual parameters because they are the values that is used for computation. Is it clear, everyone? Those are the values which are used for the computation. So they are called as actual parameters. So the formal parameters are the one which is used in function declaration and function definition. Parameters which is written in function call, because always you will call the function with certain values. Understood? So that will be the actual values. So those parameters are going to be the actual parameters. Clear? They are used for the computation. So now you see this example, same example, displaying int a. This is certainly this variable doesn't have any value. Void main index equal to display x. So this x is having the actual value. So what is this? Display of x means it comes to this function. Display inside the bracket int a. Now this a will get the value of x. What is there in x? 10. So it is like void display int 10. Understood? Then it will print that 10. So the actual value, which is the actual parameter, is the one which is having the actual value, and that value will be passed to the formal parameter. So understood? So this here x is the not the formal. Here x is the actual parameter. Clear? Here x is the actual parameter, and formal parameters are the one which is used in the function declaration as well as in function definition. Is it clear, everyone? So when it comes to function call, in function call you will be you will be using the actual value that you need to execute it in the program. So this is the first introduction part of the function. Next we have to see still more topics are there in the function. So initially these parts should be very clear. What is function? How to write a function? Clear? So function, the two categories of function are built-in function and user-defined function. So in this module we are learning about user-defined function. So the elements of user-defined function is very important. What is that? Function declaration, function definition and function call. Learn with its syntax. Okay, syntax and example. And then the formal parameters. What is the difference between formal and actual parameters? That is also very important question. You understood what is formal parameter? The parameter which comes in the function declaration and definition. Actual parameter is the one which is used in the function call, where it is having the actual value that has to be used in the program for the computation purpose. Clear? So this is the introduction part of the function. So you can refer in your notes from page number 1 to 6. Okay. Thank you for listening.